Make that shit.
Hi you guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chamira, Elaine. For those of you who are new, for those of you who are not new, thank you all so much for coming back and supporting everything I do here with my channel. By the title of this video, I am going to be sharing with you all my breastfeeding journey. Okay, so if that's something that you're interested in, definitely keep on watching. For those of you who just stumbled across my channel, I am a first-time mom. Since I found that I was pregnant, I have been documenting my pregnancy journey, and then I'm continuing to document my journey as a first-time mom, and that includes my breastfeeding journey. So I'm actually currently breastfeeding. That is probably like the only time that I'll have to like film a sit down video like this. So before I get into, okay, focus, there we go. Before I get into my actual journey, I do want to start off by saying, first, I am no expert. Like I told you, I am a first-time parent, so this is just solely my experience, my opinions, and so forth. I just don't want anybody to take this video and be like, oh, that's not right, or oh, this is wrong, or whatever the case may be. This is my own experience, so that is what I'm sharing with you all. And then the second thing that I want to say is, whenever I thought about like having kids and being pregnant, I always knew that I wanted to breastfeed. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. Currently, Hunter is 3 months, so I have been exclusively breastfeeding. So what that means is that he's been eating primarily from my breast and not from a bottle. Usually when people say exclusively pumping, that means that baby is eating primarily from the bottle over the breast. They're still getting breast milk. For me, I've been exclusively breastfeeding since birth. Now, I want to start way from the beginning. So when he was actually born, that was one of like my main priorities. I had it in my birth plan and everything. I wanted him to be able to latch as soon as he was born. From the information that I read, as well as the information that I was given from my doula, it kind of makes it easier for them to latch on after that. Now, from what I know, babies naturally have a sucking reflex. So like I've seen videos where babies are just being born, you put them on their stomach and they'll like inch their way to their mom's breast. So babies naturally have like that sucking instinct. So I knew that I wanted to capitalize off of that as soon as he came out the womb. He ended up latching for the first time, and the nurse was trying to like show me different ways to latch, but it just was not working for me. I don't know if it was like how she was explaining it, or to me, she just didn't do a good job at explaining how to hold him, how to have him like latch and like stuff like that. So when his very first latch, it was very uncomfortable for me. And honestly, I think he only stayed latched for like 2 minutes. So I was like, okay, I was hoping that my postpartum nurse was gonna be a little bit better. So we went to the postpartum room, and thank God, she literally like, oh my God, she helped. She helped tremendously. So he was latching perfectly. Like, she showed me how to hold him, because there are different types of hold, and you know how to maneuver my breast to be like all the way inside of his mouth instead of just on the nipple part, because that can, you know, be a little bit uncomfortable. So while we were in the hospital, like, he was fine. At that point, I was just producing colostrum, so my breast milk hadn't actually like come in at that point. Once we end up leaving the hospital and coming home, this is when, you know, it started to get a little frustrating, I guess you can say. So we come home, and I don't know, like, I feel like my breast milk, my milk supply had literally like just come in. So my breasts were so engorged. When I say they were so big, I've never seen my breast that big and that hard before. Like, it was so painful, it was so uncomfortable. Because my milk supply was just coming in, what I had learned in the hospital about like latching him and how to hold him, it literally completely went out the window, because my breasts were so big and I feel like the milk was like coming out too fast, or I don't know, it had just completely changed the dynamic of what we had going on. Okay, so And at this time, I also did not have a pump, so I wasn't able to like pump some of that milk out. So like my breasts were like really big. I can literally remember like dreading feeding him. I know that sounds like bad, but I was like dreading feeding him because my nipples were hurting so bad, and like I feel like he started like sucking some of the skin off of my nipples. It was like so dry, they were cracked. It just was not a good feeling. It wasn't like a good experience. So every time that I knew I had to feed him, I would get like so much anxiety because it was so painful, and I was like dreading that part. And because I had felt like that, I was literally like this close. Okay, you see that? I was that close to being like, I'm actually not gonna breastfeed anymore, because I just felt like that experience, it shouldn't feel like that. You know, like, and he was eating what, every 2 hours? So like every 2 hours I had to experience pain and uncomfortability. No. One of the tips that my doula gave me was to just have a place where I can breastfeed that is completely comfortable, whether that is a dim lit room, whether it's music playing, a nice comfy pillow propped up, just a space for me to be in that is super relaxing, because that'll help me when going into like actually breastfeeding. The other thing that she told me to do was, because I didn't have a pump at the time, was to kind of express some of that milk out in the shower so that my breasts weren't as full. And then she also explained that when you're expressing some of the milk out, you're also signaling to your body to produce more milk. So I would literally sit in the shower under hot water and just like express some of that milk out. Sometimes I would like massage my breasts with oil. I had heating pads, as well as like putting cold compresses on it, just to kind of relieve some of that uncomfortability as well as pain. And I also use a lot of nipple butter just to help with like my cracked nipples. After about a month, our breastfeeding journey had gotten way better, like way better. So it did take about a month. I know that sounds like a very long time, but I knew that I did not want to supplement with formula. Not to say that anything is wrong with that, but I just knew, like I told y'all before, I knew I had always wanted to breastfeed. So I was gonna do whatever it took to have an enjoyable experience. I was like, let me just try everything that I can before I opt to supplement with formula. So I ended up doing everything that I could, and I literally ended up continuing to breastfeed. So we're here now, 3 months in. Typically when we breastfeed, I like to have like a pillow propped up behind me, just because it is a little bit more comfortable. I also have a boppy pillow for him to be propped up on to also make it a lot more comfortable. I also like to put my arm kind of like under his head like this and hold him, especially now that he's getting a lot bigger. These are all just ways, techniques to make it a lot more comfortable. This may not work for you. I would highly suggest kind of researching and just trying out different holds and different methods. I believe the hold that I currently do is called a cradle hold. I tried the football hold. I tried a few holds, and the cradle is just the best one that works for us. Typically when he feeds, I only feed him from one breast. Now when we went to see his pediatrician, I ended up talking to a lactation specialist, and she was telling me that if I wanted to increase the amount of time that like he was sleeping or between his next feed, then to try to feed from both breasts. And I've tried that like a few times, but typically when he's feeding from one side of the breast, he tends to go to sleep, and I don't know why. I just don't wake him up. What they say is if he feeds from one breast and he gets sleepy, kind of like gently wake him up, burp him, and then put him on the other boob to see if he wants more milk. So sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. It really just depends. Don't have any worry that he's not getting enough milk, because I mean, what, he's had about 3 doctor's appointments already, and he's gaining weight sufficiently. I did read something, I think I was talking to a lactation specialist, and they were telling me that it's beneficial to wait to pump until at least 6 to 8 weeks. I took that advice to not pump between that period of time. So I started pumping about 2 months after he was born, especially because his pediatrician was telling me that you want him to be introduced to a bottle nipple so that he doesn't fully reject it when it's time for him to take a bottle, especially because I needed to go back to work. I was blessed enough to have a pump given to me. It wasn't given, I'm borrowing a pump, and I have the Spectra. Yeah, I think I have the Spectra, the newer one that doesn't have to be like hooked up into the wall. You can charge it and kind of like walk around with it. I do feel like I was putting too much pressure on myself when it came to like building this, I don't know, extensive milk stash. And then I had to realize and that's just because I was looking at all of these other moms that had like freezers, a freezer full of milk. And then I had to realize that those moms are exclusively pumping. They're not pumping and breastfeeding. And if you do decide to pump and breastfeed, that is something that you should keep in mind, is that if you're wanting to build a stash, you will have to pump in between their feedings, which could be a lot. For me, it was a lot. Like if I'm feeding him every 2-3 hours, there's no way that I want to pump in between that time. I mean, it ain't like a good feeling. You know, it's not a bad feeling of like when you're pumping or when they're breastfeeding. It's just uncomfortable. You don't want something like constantly tugging at your nipple every single hour. So what I started doing was, if he slept throughout a feeding, I would just pump. I would sometimes pump in the middle of the night. Like I would try to find times to pump so that I can have extra milk in the freezer just in case. Alrighty. So that is a little bit about my journey. I get a lot of questions about what I eat to maintain my milk supply. Honestly, that is very hard for me to answer because I don't feel like I've ever had trouble with my milk supply to be able to like try new things to increase it per se. God willing, I don't see a decrease in my supply. But if I do and I start doing like different things, I'll definitely make sure to make another video. But what I am currently drinking that I was actually recommended from my doula was the Greater Than coconut water. It's recommended for moms who nurse, and it's honestly a great way to just stay hydrated. And then the coconut water also helps to increase milk supply. So I literally have a subscription and I get about 12 boxes a month, and I go through those, and those actually help me to stay as hydrated as I am. I know that staying hydrated helps with milk supply, whether it's water, coconut water. I know a lot of women drink the body armors. You just need to stay hydrated. Like you really need to stay hydrated. I also eat oatmeal. Now I don't eat oatmeal every single day. I eat it every so often, again just to help maintain my milk supply. So I probably maybe eat oatmeal once a week. Whenever I cook meals, especially like salads or soups and stuff like that, I also make sure to put like flax seeds in it, because flax seeds are known to help with milk supply as well. Now one other thing that I did a lot in the beginning that I feel like also helped to maintain my milk supply is a lot of skin to skin contact with baby, especially while nursing. So if you don't know, skin to skin contact helps produce the hormone prolactin and oxytocin. I occasionally do it now, especially in the tub. So I think we've taken 3 baths together. Now one thing that I did see when researching how to like increase milk supply, or even for women that are struggling with their milk supply, is you can try nursing in the tub with the baby. So that is something that I would recommend trying out if you are struggling with like your milk supply, is to literally take a bath with baby and nurse while you're in the tub together. And I feel like it's also just a great bonding moment. That is a more natural way of doing it, instead of like drinking all of these teas and herbs and like things like that. Just get in the tub with your baby and try to nurse. So those are literally the only things that I do to help with my milk supply. Now the other thing that I did want to mention about breast milk is that it does not contain any vitamin D. So I do have these liquid like vitamin D drops. Honestly, you can get these from like Walmart, Amazon, whatever. So what I typically do is before I feed for the day, I just put a little bitty drop on my nipple. That is how he gets his vitamin D. The only other thing that I wanted to mention that is a big part of my breastfeeding journey is Hunter does not take a pacifier. Hunter does not take a pacifier, which means my nipple becomes the pacifier. Okay, my nipple becomes the pacifier. Now I say that this is a big part of my breastfeeding journey because he likes to comfort feed. It can be a struggle. One, because I feel like he's eating a lot more because he's comfort feeding, so he spits up more. 2, because he likes to comfort feed, that's how he puts himself to sleep there. So there is no separation between eating and sleeping, which I feel like especially as he gets older, needs to be more apparent. Like there needs to be a separation between the two. And 3, it makes it a lot harder for other people to like soothe him, put him to sleep and things like that, because he's so used to doing that on the nipple. Now I have been trying things out to help with that, but that is something that I'm going to talk about in another video, in his 3-month-old update. So definitely stay tuned for that video. I also want to add, the one thing that I regret is not getting a rocking chair sooner. So his rocking chair is actually on the way, but I wish that that was one of like the first things that I got for his nursery, because I feel like it would have helped extremely with our breastfeeding journey, just having a set area and a set space, set comfortable space that is in a more private area to be able to feed him, especially when we have like guests and stuff over. I don't feel like I don't feel like I had the space to do that. I either had to like go in a room that was like, I don't know, just not comfortable, or I would have to be out here on the couch where I normally feed him, where everybody is, you know, and like my breast all out, even though I don't have a problem with it. But you know how that can be, just feeling uncomfortable a little bit with like having your breast all out there in front of people while you gotta feed him and stuff like that. So that is one thing that I wish that I had. So if you're thinking about getting that rocking chair, even though it is expensive, it can be, get it. It is worth the investment if you plan on nursing. The last thing that I want to talk about is the breast milk and just the lifestyle of what it means to actually be breastfeeding. Because if you don't know me, then you probably don't know this about me, but for those who know me, know that I am not a house person. I am not a homebody. I am not a couch potato. I like to be out and about, okay? And I like to occasionally have my little drinky drinks, you feel me? But that cannot be the case when you're breastfeeding. I feel like it took me a long time to transition from that mode of my life to being like, I don't want to say stuck in the house, because you're definitely not stuck in the house when it comes to breastfeeding, but you have to keep in mind that if you're out and about, then you'll potentially have to feed your baby out in public. And then the thing about breast milk, when it comes to like actually having a bottle of breast milk, it only lasts for so long. You have to use it within a certain time period, or you're gonna have to feed from the breast. Especially because he's a winter baby, I just wasn't into doing that, because I have to take off all of our coats, and like just the preparation of trying to feed him was just a little too much. He's not crying or nothing, y'all. He just a little excited. So as you all know, when you're breastfeeding, you can't drink as much as you normally would if you were a person that like drank all the time. One, alcohol, especially when it's drunken, what's the word? When it's drank on a regular, can decrease your milk supply. So typically for one drink, I forget the amount of like ounces, you typically will have to wait about 2 hours for the alcohol to completely leave your bloodstream, your body, the milk, so that your baby is not consuming that alcohol. I mean, and who wants their baby to be drinking alcohol from their breast milk? You can go out and have a drink, definitely. You want to be able to enjoy yourself. That's what the doctor's gonna tell you. You can go out and enjoy yourself and have a drink or two, you feel me? But you want to make sure that you have milk stash just in case that alcohol has not completely left your system. Now, one thing that you could do that I haven't done yet is they have strips where you can test your breast milk to see if alcohol is present. If you are more on like the worry side, honestly, I would just buy those just so that you know for sure if alcohol is present and if it's safe to feed your baby. Y'all, he is like laughing. I got him this like mushroom thing. It's like a teething thing, and it's like in the shape of a nipple for those of you who breastfeed, okay? And he's loving it, okay? The last thing, this is the last thing for real, y'all. I promise y'all, I'm so all over the place, but good information. Me, my mom, and my sister was just talking about this, and I feel like people have been asking me this as well, is how long do I plan on breastfeeding? And honestly, I don't know. I don't have a set time where I'm like, okay, after he's this old, then we're just gonna stop. I feel like we'll know. Me and Hunter will know when it's time for him to leave the breastfeeding alone. Breastfeeding is just such a great bonding experience. I just feel more connected to him. We will see. I will definitely keep updating you all on how he's doing with the breastfeeding journey. I hope that this video was helpful. I know that I was all over the place, but I hope that it was helpful. If you all have any questions on something that I maybe forgot to address, or just a question or a comment in general, let's chat down in the comments. If you decide not to breastfeed, that is totally okay. As long as your baby is fed, don't let nobody tell you what is better or worse for your baby. What is better is that they not hungry. I'm glad that I'm able to share my experience if it means that I can potentially help somebody make that decision, or just be a little bit more informed about real experiences of breastfeeding. Nobody likes to share those really dark, hard moments, honestly. And when women go through postpartum depression, the #1 reason a lot of times is because they're either sleep deprived or they're breastfeeding, because it takes an extreme toll on your body. And I don't recommend it for someone who is not ready to give their entire body to their baby, or just doesn't want that, because it is extremely demanding. For all of the mamas out there that are struggling to breastfeed, keep going, keep trying it out, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it's okay. Here's Hunter. Say hi, Titty Toot. Say hi, you guys. Say hi, you guys. Let's get him in the outro. And that is it for this video. Definitely, if you like this video, tell them to like and comment. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, definitely hit that subscribe button. And we hope to see you guys in our next video. Well, in my next video. Bye.